marry you? Muhammad wanted to know who that could be. The friend told him it was Khadija. Muhammad was very happy because he greatly respected Khadija. He went with his uncles, Abu Talib and Hamza, to Khadija's uncle, and asked his permission to marry her. The uncle gave his permission, and soon after, Muhammad and Khadija were married. Their marriage was a joyful one, and Muhammad and Khadija were well suited. Their life together, however, was not without some sadness. They were blessed with 6 children, 2 sons, and 4 daughters. Sadly, their firstborn, a son, called Qasim, died shortly before his 2nd birthday, and their last child, also a son, only lived for a short time. Happily, their 4 daughters Zainab, Ruqayya, Kulthum, and Fatima all survived. For a few years, Muhammad lived a calm and quiet life as a merchant in Mecca. His wisdom benefited many people. One such time was when Quraysh decided to rebuild the Kaaba. It was a difficult decision for them because they had to knock it down before rebuilding it. And the people were afraid that Allah might be angry with them for knocking down his sanctuary. At last, one of the wise old men of Quraysh decided to begin. Then everybody followed him. They worked until they reached down to the first foundation that Abraham had built. As soon as they began to remove the stones of this foundation, however, the whole of Mecca began to shake. They were so afraid that they decided to leave these stones where they were and build on top of them. Each tribe brought stones, and they built the Kaaba up until they reached the place where the black stone was to be set. They then began to argue about who should have the honor of carrying the black stone and lifting it to its place in one of the corners of the Kaaba. They almost came to blows, but fortunately, one of the men offered a solution. He suggested that they should be guided by the first person to enter the place of worship. They all agreed, and as Muhammad was the first to enter, everyone was pleased because they all trusted him. They told him the cause of the argument, and he asked them to bring a large cloak. They did as he asked, and after spreading the cloak on the ground, he placed the black stone in the center of it. Then he asked a man from each tribe to hold one edge of the cloak, and together to raise it to the height where the stone should be. When this was done, he took the stone off the cloak and put it into place himself. This story shows how all Quraysh respected and trusted Muhammad and how, by his wisdom and good sense, he was able to keep the peace. The coming of the Archangel Gabriel. Muhammad believed that there was only one Allah, creator of the sun, the moon, the earth, the sky, and of all living things, and that all people should worship only him. Muhammad would often leave the crowded city and go to the cave in Mount Hira. He liked to be alone there, away from all thoughts of the world and daily life, eating and drinking little. In his 40th year, Muhammad left Mecca to spend Ramadan, the traditional month of retreat, in the cave. In the second half of Ramadan, Allah began to reveal His message for mankind through Muhammad. This first revelation occurred as follows. The archangel Gabriel came to Muhammad in the cave and commanded him to read. Muhammad replied, "I cannot read." At this, the archangel took Muhammad in his arms and pressed him to him until it was almost too much to bear. He then released him and said, again, "Read." "I cannot," replied Muhammad, at which the archangel embraced him again. For the third time, the archangel commanded Muhammad to read, but still, he said, he could not, and was again embraced. On releasing him this time, however, the archangel Gabriel said, "Read, in the name of thy Lord, who createth man from a clot. Read, and thy Lord is the most generous, who teacheth by the pen, teacheth man that which he knew not." Muhammad repeated these verses just as the archangel had said them. When the archangel was sure Muhammad knew them by heart, he went away. Now that he was alone, Muhammad could not understand what had happened to him. He was terribly afraid and rushed out of the cave. Perhaps the cave was haunted? Perhaps the devil had taken a hold of his mind? But he was stopped by a voice from heaven, which said, "O Muhammad, you are the messenger of Allah, and I am Gabriel." He looked up at the sky, and wherever he turned, he saw the archangel Gabriel. In a state of confusion, he returned home to Khadijah. When his wife saw him, she became very worried, as he began to shiver as though in a fever. He asked her to wrap him in blankets, which she did. After a while, he recovered sufficiently to tell her what had happened at Hira. Khadijah believed all that he told her, and, with great respect, said, "Be happy, O son of my uncle, and be confident. Truly, I swear, by Allah, who has my soul in his hands, that you will be our people's prophet." Muhammad, the messenger of Allah, was eased by her faith in him, but after all that had happened, he was exhausted and felt fast asleep. Khadijah left the Prophet sleeping and went to see her cousin Waraka ibn Nawfal to ask him what he thought about all that had happened. Waraka was a very wise man who had read many books and had become a Christian after studying the Bible. He told Khadijah that Muhammad had been chosen by Allah to be his messenger, just as the archangel Gabriel had come to Moses before and had ordered him to guide his people. So, too, would Muhammad be the prophet of his people. But Waraka warned that all the people would not listen to the prophet, and some would mistreat his followers. He must, however, be patient because he had a great message for all the world. From that day on, the Archangel Gabriel came often to the prophet and the verses he taught him, the message from Allah to man, were later written down and are known to us as the Holy Quran.